Hey everybody, welcome back to Promise of Plenty Flesh and Blood show with me, Keith, and my buddy Nate over there. And I don't know if there's any news for Flesh and Blood this week, but I'm a
You
little.
don't know? Where have you been,
I,
Keith?
I took the kids to Disney, so there was. I think I would have rather have been playing Flesh and Blood than standing in long lines in the sun in Florida. But hey, you do what you got to do as a dad, right?
You picked a heck of a week to do it, though.
Yeah. It was actually over Halloween, and
Oh,
we went to Magic Kingdom, and like at 5 o'clock they kicked us out, and there was this line of thousands of people trying to get in costume because they apparently
oh no.
do this whole big Halloween night, and you have to buy tickets like 8 months in advance to be able to even get
Wow,
in.
that's
So
unfortunate.
it was fun seeing all the costumes and stuff. But yeah, yeah.
That gave you
So
some time to catch up on spoilers then, though, right?
I try to keep up with you guys. I kept looking for more cards for the Emperor. I mean, is the Emperor is gonna be a cool hero, right? Is he gonna be played a lot? You think? Did he get a lot of support?
No,
No, no. Did something happen to the Emperor?
I don't know what you're talking about. He's got a protector. He should be fine.
Did Yoji fail? Did something happen to Yoji?
Yoji's fine. Don't worry. The Emperor, not so much, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay, okay.
We need to get you caught up, Keith.
Okay. Well, speaking of catching up, what have you been up to? I guess a lot of spoilers this week means you've been busy, huh? Talishar T-shirt, man, you got to make that available on the Patreon or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Um, yeah, so we've been pretty busy implementing the cards as they come in. We've been keeping up pretty well. I think there's 21 left, including the ones that haven't quite been spoiled yet. So we're counting we're assuming there's going to be a fable that we're going to have to implement. So we've got a counter up on the main page of all the ones that's missing. So
Okay.
that's what I've been doing.
There's a leaked image of a possible fable floating around, and if this image is true, you won't have to do that much additional programming. So,
That's true.
but I don't want to give that any spirit, any steam. So,
I'm skeptical. I'll try to take some steam away from that image because I'm
yeah,
a little skeptical of that one. But we'll
yeah.
see.
All
We'll
right.
see.
So there are a ton of spoilers that came out, more than we could cover in the time to keep this a reasonable episode. But
Challenge accepted.
but I'm gonna pop over to PC and pull up Arachne, the assassin.
The
Yeah,
Huntsman.
he got the Emperor, didn't he? That's,
What?
man, man. I had high hopes for this guy, but they took him out.
Oh well.
So, Arachne, Huntsman, adult, assassin hero. 40 health, 4 intellect, pretty standard stuff. Also comes as a young hero, 20 health. Whenever you play a card with contract, you may look at the top card of target opponent's deck. You may put it on the bottom. Wow, that is going to be so annoying.
Playing.
Playing against this. And hey, points again for consistently having their puns in the name. Arachne, based on a spider, a huntsman spider, pretty big down in Australia, New Zealand, as I understand it. So there you go. He's the spider.
I feel like it's going to be hard to go through these one by one. So I think we can just kind of get into it. So I've played a decent amount of Arachne online on Talishar. Surprise. And
Well, that was good.
He's
They
really
got to
good.
him right away, so you got to do that new class first. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's good. I think he's got a lot of promise. He's got his weaknesses. He's a lot of fun to play.
Hmm.
A huge fun to play. Even if he wasn't good, he'd be fun to play. Um, at least for me, he plays more like a mid-range kind of hero, kind of like a Dory Axis kind of thing, and he's weak to a lot of the similar things. So, if your opponent has defense reactions, he's very reliant on actually hitting with his attacks to be able to get go again, right? So,
Right.
like if you look at his legendary leg armor, the Black Tech Whisperers, it's got that attack reaction that says destroy. The attack action card gains when this hits a hero gains go again.
Okay, so it's
And
Snapdragon Scalers, sort of, but for assassin.
well, Snapdragon Scalers doesn't require you to hit.
Ah, that's true.
That's the trick.
And
Um,
with that
I would,
also, yeah, that's an interesting condition. A lot of his stuff, like you said, very similar to Warrior. You have hits that happen, or they have to defend, or some other thing where if the opponent knows how this class works, they can sort of work around it.
yeah, I think that's fair to say because even if you don't have a lot of defense reactions, a lot of the time you can overblock by three or four, and most likely you're going to be able to shut down their turn. And so if they hold back their whole hand, that might be a sign to you to say, oh, maybe I'll try to overblock, even if I don't have any defense reactions, because there's a decent chance you'll be able to shut down a good part of their turn,
Okay,
and they may have three or four cards left over.
right.
So definitely a lot of opportunities for smart counterplay versus Arachne. I think so. He's very hard to play into something like Oldham that maybe runs more defense reactions. Any kind of control deck that runs defense reactions is going to be very hard. The hardest matchup that I've seen so far is Dromai.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's got a really bad matchup into Dromai, in my opinion. Um, because he has the daggers that have go again. The problem is, unlike Kodachis, they basically cost a whole card to activate once. And with Kodachis, you could do one blue, kill two of the Ether Ashwings, and still have a resource left over.
Right.
So these things, you pitch a blue, you kill one Ether Ashwing,
Hmm.
you pitch another blue to kill the second one, and then you've got two resources left over. But I mean, do you really need two resources at that point? Because he doesn't have a lot of cards to spend the two resources on.
Yeah,
Um,
the kit, they shoehorned a core set of cards in here, and JW said this that there will be more cards coming soon to expand on this class, including maybe contracts that are on an item. So just different ways to get those things activated. So am real curious to see how people build this deck because you're gonna need a lot of generics to fill it out.
you might be surprised. At least when I built my deck, it doesn't have a whole lot of generics. I think I put in Razor Reflex. That's a really good one.
Hmm.
Because it can help give you go agains. But the problem is, again, it has to hit to get the go again.
Hmm.
Other things I considered was Art of War, because you can get an unconditional go again from that one. The problem is that kind of accelerates your own fatigue, and that's kind of the strategy that Arachne sometimes wants to go for. So Art of War isn't. I don't think it's an auto include in his deck,
Okay.
but it's certainly one to consider.
Oh, and briefly, the other core part of Assassin is you're supposed to use your equipment over and over. There's a method to recur it, and it's the first hero other than Kasai to use the money system in the game. So you've got
Hmm.
like the Black
What?
Tech Whisperers in your graveyard.
Knick-knack, bric-a-brac doesn't count?
Well, I'm just saying that's a generic. Anybody could use it, but
Knick-knack, bric-a-brac comes recommended by Tariq Patel. You cannot ignore it.
we'll have to go check his world's decks to see how many copies he included now.
Well, yeah. Well, let's don't worry. He recommended it though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
I think that's a really cool mechanic. We've seen it a little bit before because you actually get the block on those again as well when they come back.
right, right. The battle
Um,
worn is
and
gone. Yeah.
yeah, and we've seen that before with the Valiant Dynamos in Warrior. It's kind of similar to that kind of mechanic as well. And I
How
think
have you
that's is
done with
really cool.
silver generation in your games then?
So that's where you really like it depends on your opponent, right? Silver is kind of like the Dawnblade counters of Dory. If your opponent is blocking you out, they're over blocking or they're holding back defense reactions, you're not going to get silver. You're going to have a bad time. But
Yeah.
if you're getting silver, if you're constantly getting silver, it kind of snowballs because you can keep paying into that Mask of Perdition. It's going to let you banish more cards. It's going to let you fill more contracts,
Hmm.
and then you're constantly getting the go again off the boots, which again is going to let you get a second contract, and just kind of it's almost like an exponential scaling because they scale off of each other. So your ideal turn is you play one attack with contract. You use the boots to give it go again.
Hmm.
You play another contract, and then you use the mask to make it banish another card. And the reason you want to do that is because contracts are still live if they're on on the combat chain. So if you have two contract attacks on the combat chain, they'll both trigger if you banish the thing that fulfills the trigger.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can pretty easily get back your 4 silver, depending on what the exact contracts are, what your opponent is.
Right.
Um,
I'm
but
looking
there's
at
one.
I'm looking at leave no witnesses, and it says banish opponent's red cards. If you do it, you get a silver. But when this hits, banish the top card of their deck and up to one card of their arsenal. I feel like a lot of these cards, the contract, like they might spend their blocks to stop the on hit of leave no witnesses, but then if you can
Mhm.
keep the chain going to get something else to hit and get that banish, like you said, this is still up there. You can get that silver
But
from that.
remember, you need to hit to get your go again. That's the trick, right? I mean, there are ways to get go again. There's like lead the charge that doesn't require a hit, but it's very inefficient because it gives you go again for a card, and that's basically it. It doesn't give you any quote unquote value.
Hmm.
Um, so it's tough to get go again. But you're absolutely right. Leave no witnesses is a very strong card. All of the majestic ones are very strong. I think my favorite is Eradicate that banishes one per damage it does,
Yeah.
which is pretty wild. That's
Yeah.
wild. That's the one that you can use if you want to go for a true fatigue strategy and just try to buff that one like crazy. Um,
Yeah. And
and
I
I
feel
think.
like like you said, it's a mid-range kind of longer game character when you get the things going. Like, I mean, there are a lot of classes where if you see, oh, they're about to draw a command and conquer, well, that's going to the bottom, or you're about to draw. You requires a knowledge too of like who you're playing to know what to to banish if you
Mhm.
have an
And
option.
that's very challenging. It's very challenging because another thing to consider is sometimes you don't want to play for silver. Sometimes you want to banish your opponent's impactful cards. So let's say you're playing against Fi, you see an Art of War on top. you probably want to leave that there, even if banishing it isn't going to give you the silver, just because that's a really strong card. Um, you might be surprised, but I actually found that in the current meta, the strongest contract card is actually Plunder the Poor, because there's so many classes that are running basically nothing but like 0 and 1 cost
Yeah,
cards.
yeah,
And so for that one, in the mirror match against Fi, against probably even Briar, a lot of the really popular heroes, you're gonna get a silver if it hits. So that one I think is just really strong in the current meta. And that's a fascinating thing about this class and kind of the sideboarding is you really have to think about what the opponent is trying to do
yeah. A
in
lot
a
of these
really
cards are
detailed way.
very specific in a way that they would be. They're just sideboard tech for certain decks, certain heroes. But there are, yeah, there's not a lot of room in the sideboard for
I don't
all
I
of
don't
them.
think I don't think you can think of them as sideboard tech because you're gonna need to devote a portion of your sideboard to like Null Rune and I hate to say but probably poppers to have any kind of a chance against Dromai. It's really more how you build your deck is going to be based on the kind of meta that you expect to play into.
Hmm.
And you do have a decent amount of flexibility to mainboard things that aren't going to be applicable in every matchup because again, this is more of a mid-range kind of deck. You're totally fine just slinging out a 0 for 4 with an on hit and blocking with 3 cards every turn. That's fine. That's still a really strong play because you've got that on hit, and if you're getting silver, then you're actually generating extra value from your equipment.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And
so
wow, yeah. Does every assassin card block for 3?
I think so, yeah. And that's really nice because a lot of classes they don't have the access to those kind of attack reactions that are that efficient.
Hmm.
So look at Cut to the Chase, for example. It's a attack reaction. It says target assassin attack action card gains +3. It costs 0, which is just wild. Warrior doesn't have, I don't think anything like that. Even Iron Song Response, it's a conditional 0 for +3. And so, in some ways, I think Assassin might be the new attack reaction class. They're even more efficient.
Hmm.
And the wild thing is that this actually has an additional upside. You also get to do the look at the top of their deck and put it on the bottom if you want
Yeah.
ability, which is
Yep.
unbelievable.
I
I
feel
think
like
this might be.
you're gonna run a lot of these. Definitely all 3
Um,
reds, probably the yellows. Just
eh,
get over the top.
it's tough. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. I think I actually like Shred even better because it's even more efficient for what it's trying to do, which is to make your hits go through. So I really like Shred Blue. I think I would run Shred Blue over Cut to the Chase Blue. But you're
That makes
absolutely right.
sense.
There's a lot of
Instead of
room to.
giving your +1, give them a -2, and there you go.
Right, because that's most of the time that's what you want to do is not really push through just raw damage, but you want to make sure your attacks are hitting.
Right.
Because if you're hitting, you're generating a lot of extra value from your equipment, and also kind of milling out your opponent's cards. So it's a preference. I like Shred a little bit better.
Also, probably my vote for the gnarliest art they put out this set.
Oh, Shred. Yeah, that's a pretty wild one, I must say.
It looks like let's see, where's the ninja weapon or arms? The ninja arms they came out with.
Ninja Arms
Yeah, let's see if I can find the picture real quick. The
in.
tearing shuko.
Oh,
It looks
right.
like someone took a tearing shuko and like went down on somebody's head. It's wild.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people joking when Shred came out, like, man, I wanted to teach my kids this game, but it's
Yeah,
like,
well, I
it
mean,
is 14 and up, so yeah.
we've had some pretty wild stuff before. I don't know if that one even is the worst that we've seen. I mean, we've
No,
got
no,
Snag. Snag
Monarch.
is
A lot of Monarch the Shadow cards are wild. There's a lot
mhm.
of souls and getting ripped out and blood everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's still, opportunities for other classes, maybe. But speaking of other classes, do we want to talk about any of the others?
Okay, which class are you most excited to play other than Assassin with these cards?
Ranger, I think. Ranger, for
Okay.
sure. I'm very
Okay.
excited about Ranger. I also am excited about Guardian.
Oh,
Surprise,
I know
I mean,
this.
I was a Ranger and Guardian player before this, so that shouldn't be a surprise at all. But I think they've both got some decent support. Um, I guess we can start with Guardian just because they're higher in the list. So
Okay. Okay.
I think we talked about Season Savior last time. Steel Braid Buckler. This may look kind of underwhelming because we already have something that is strictly better than this, which is Stalagmite. Stalagmite is one of the best equipment in
Right.
the game.
The same
Don't
two
at
temper,
me.
but you give out frostbites. Yeah.
Right. And so that may make this look not as exciting. But there's a key difference. This does not have a elemental talent restriction.
Right. Bravo can
So
use this. Yeah. Or Valda.
Bravo can use
Yeah.
this. Valda can use this. And I think I mentioned in a previous episode that I've been experimenting with Valda, Sift Valda recently. So I'm pretty excited for this card, more than you would think. So, Buckle, it looks like just a really solid blue, three block utility kind of card. It's very similar to Terra Sunder, which is in pretty much every one of my Guardian decks. It's just that good. It gives you
Hmm.
a lot of late game push opportunities, trying to squeeze through that last little bit of damage.
Right. Yeah,
It
you can apply it
also,
to weapons like Terra Sunder.
correct, yes, because it says Guardian attack.
Hmm.
And it's also just kind of a neat little, anti-equipment tech card. If they, like, let's say they're on combo Bolton, they made the mistake of blocking with their Courage of Blade Hold. Now you can push this thing through and destroy their Courage of Blade Hold, and they're going to be really sad. Um,
Yeah.
Valiant Dynamo, this is going to be great against because they need to be blocking with their Valiant Dynamo, right? Like
Hmm.
that's why it's there. If they're not blocking with it, then you've already destroyed it basically. It's not
Right.
doing anything. So this is just going to be a really nice tech card against equipment.
And the
Um,
opposite, never yield to take a counter off your stuff. This card has a lot going on.
it
Start,
does.
start of your turn, destroy it. If you have no cards in hand, draw a card. If you have less health, gain 2 health. If you have less equipment, then you can remove a counter. That's an interesting one. So I figure you will likely be pitching this early, relying on it later in the game to take a counter off that shield you just used. But very, very very turtle defensive card.
It is an odd one. It's an odd card. I agree. It's more of a turtly defensive card. I think kind of similar to Buckle. What makes it really interesting is that it's a blue that blocks for three. And we Guardians just love having blues that block for three. That's just our bread and butter. And so this is just another option for us to do something interesting with our blue block three slots. I think this is an extraordinarily well designed card. Extremely well designed. If you look at it, it costs three resources to play, and it obviously it's a card. which we kind of say is about three value, right?
Okay.
Uh, and then if you look at the text, let's say you play it, drawing if you draw a card, that's about three value. It replaces itself. If you gain two life, that's obviously two value because we're defining life as our value. And then if you remove a -1 counter, that's really interesting.
Hmm.
That might be one value.
Or if you're
It might
playing
be
Oldhim and you take a counter off of Stalagmite,
stalagmite.
that's a lot
That
of
might be
value.
two value and an extra frostbite.
Yeah.
So this is going to be really fascinating in a more defensive kind of deck, I think. Absolutely. The no cards in hand thing is going to be very easy to fulfill because you just block with your whole hand and then you have
And
no
that
cards.
part is an interesting thing since it's an aura. Your opponent sees you put it out. They know what it
Yeah,
does. And then it's a mind game of, well, do I just go ham with my attacks and let them empty their hand? Or
they have to, right?
or do I just like slow down a bit and make sure they can't block with their whole hand and then this just fizzles out? Which on its own, if you slow down your opponent, that's also a positive thing for you.
That's true. I think there's going to be a lot of possibilities for skill expression for the opponent of this card too, like you just mentioned, because those are things that you need to consider. Do I want to? Maybe I'll hold off on doing the last attack. Maybe I'll take a turn off and set up my arsenal. Maybe I'll play out an energy potion or a
Hmm.
channel mount heroic.
Right?
That would be the nightmare scenario, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Or there's some
I think,
heroes this would basically you could whiff on, like your Reinar. Like if he intimidates you, you can't empty your hand.
yeah, that's a good point. I think this is going to be very strong situationally, like against Chain, for example. I think you would love to have this in Chain. I think you'd love to have it in Boost Dash. Those kind of matchups where, it's probably going to go to fatigue pretty early and you're probably going to need to commit to blocking out from turn one.
Hmm.
This can I think make that strategy a little bit more consistent,
For sure.
especially if you can do it alongside like a Heart of Findall or something and get that extra one life. But yeah, this is a fascinating card. I love this card. I'd love to see more cards like this. We spent enough time talking about this card.
All right. Then the other, Shield Bash and Shield Wall. Just a quick on those Guardian things. Like if your Guardian offhand is defending, deal 1 damage. That's fun. I was hoping when once we saw some of these other shield mechanics come in, I was definitely anticipating a block and deal damage, shield bash kind of thing. So this is cool. This art is really sick too.
It's a cool card. I think it has really limited applicability because there's a few problems with this card. I mean, number one is that it's not very efficient. So 3 for 6 block on a red is actually pretty bad when you compare it to like there's even the generic one. I'm blanking on the name.
Oh, now that you said you blanked, my brain is gonna empty
It's
itself.
well, so whatever it is, it's 3 for 7, and you even get another +1 when you play it from the arsenal.
Yep.
So
And I don't know why I'm
even
blank. Unmovable. Unmovable.
unmovable, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. I was
But
just
this
about
you
to try
get
to
to
look
deal
it
a
up.
damage back. So yeah, I think it's more of a
But
comparison to Steel Blade
but
Shunt.
you also have to be blocking with that equipment. And so think about so that means that, you may potentially have to be over blocking to be able to get the extra damage, which doesn't feel good.
Hmm.
The other thing is the shield that you most want to use this with, the one that has basically infinite blocks, that's the ram's head shield.
Right.
That costs 1 to get your block.
Right.
But because this costs three, that's not a clean pitch. So you still have to have something else to do with that pitch, which is gonna mean like on the seeds, like I don't know.
Yeah, I
I
feel
think
like you're probably gonna end up running the blue in this, which is only a 4 block, which makes the math even weirder.
even worse. I
Yeah.
think you really called out that this is basically like Steel Blade Shunt. I mean, the nice thing about it is you're in control of the condition as opposed to the opponent, but
Hmm.
I think the three cost and kind of the cost breakpoint with the Ram's head just makes this probably not gonna be very playable. But we'll see. We'll
Hmm.
see.
Yeah.
I think if we got a full set of cards that did damage from shields, then maybe. I think as of right now, it's probably not going to see a lot of play, unfortunately.
And the other
Um,
one is like shield wall. I don't know what you do with this. So it costs the red costs 6. It is 7 defense reaction. And
yeah.
if you have an offhand, it gets +4. So it's an 11 block if you still have your shield if it hasn't broken yet.
So, believe it or not, I could see the blue of this being extremely playable. If something like Bravo ever becomes a significant part of the meta, I could see this being maybe like so. Let's say Bravo. Let's pretend Starvo was back in the meta and he was like 40% of everybody. I could see you putting this in sideboard or like maybe even main for the blue. Cause yeah, it's 6 for 9,
But it's there
which
for the
actually isn't
dominated
that bad.
monster attacks.
Yeah, and 6 for 9 actually is right on rate if you have something to block that's 9 consistently, right? So I think the blue is very playable on this because if you don't have something to block, then you can just pitch it and that's fine. You can't run a huge amount of those things that you can only pitch and not consistently play or block with. But you can run a few, and I think this would be fine in that kind of meta. So this again, I think is an excellent card. I love it. The blue specifically.
Okay.
Uh, Maybe in another meta, the red and yellow will be playable, but we'll see.
All right.
Reinforced steel, we talked about that one last time, I think.
Yeah, they also got, what did they get? They got the blessing of patience. You can put it out and then get 3 health the next turn. 1 for 3 health. That's pretty good.
Which one are you talking about?
The red blessing of patience.
Oh, I skipped this one. Yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be for like some kind of meme life game deck, I think.
Dude,
The
they're already
fact that
out
it,
there.
I know. The fact that it has 3 block is gonna help it a lot. I I do think it's really interesting because we have a generic that is like arguably better than this, which is the what is it, Healing Salve or something from Uprising? Uh, no, Healing Balm.
Healing balm. Yeah.
Healing Balm was in Uprising. It costs 0. It just says gain 3. It's immediate and it's generic,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it only blocks 2. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I think this blessing. I know somebody's gonna run it in a meme life game
Oh,
deck,
for
but I
sure.
don't think it's gonna be like
You you
seriously playable.
you could really annoy some people and run a coax a commotion on Talishar where it's like gain 50 life in a game.
Oh
Something.
yeah, that would probably be more annoying than anything,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
The other card they got was Withstand, which is another. If your offhand is defending, it gets +6. Now, as an instant, that's that's interesting. I feel like you
Here's
could
the thing: this isn't an instant though,
because it's the
because
next time
the
you.
next time you defend,
Now, and that's the timing question, right? Like, someone puts out an attack, you get priority. Can you play the instant and
Correct.
then put your shield up?
Correct. And so once you've gotten to the point where you have the option to block with your shield, it's already too late to play this and get the benefit. So like let's say even you block with Stalagmite, after you've blocked, it has the block trigger to give the frostbite. You cannot respond to that trigger with this to buff your Stalagmite.
Hmm.
Just can't do it. So I mean this is a weird one. Like it's an instant, but it's not. I think one thing that kind of saves this one is it costs two instead of three, which is huge for the Ram's Head shield. And so again, I could maybe see the blue one being playable. Um, there's a lot of benefits to primarily blocking with equipment, right? So think about Dory, that really wants you to block from hand. This card is kind of a way for you to block from hand without actually blocking from hand for the purposes of reprise. So
Yeah.
if Dory ever became huge in the meta, then again, you can throw some of these blues into your kind of generic blue. Most of the time, I'm going to pitch this slot. Um,
Okay.
actually, Arachne. No, this this wouldn't be good against Arachne because it's not actually an instant. So never mind. Dory. If Dory ever becomes big again,
Hey, it
you
could
can throw this in.
happen. We don't need
It
to get
could.
into the warrior stuff, but warrior got some cool stuff.
Oh, you want to do warrior stuff?
No, no, no. Ranger is far more interesting because I mean, my pick is Mech, of course. Mech got the Mech, an actual Mech.
That's true. The mechanologist now has a mech. Do you want to
Construct,
talk about mech a little bit?
just this card. Construct Nitro Mechanoid. So take your head, chest, arms, legs, weapon, and 3 hyperdrivers. That's a lot of stuff.
Is it?
Uh, well, if you're going to play this, right, you have to go in with only mechanologist equipment, which, to be fair, most decks already do. And then 3 hyperdrivers. This is a reprint, yes, and they filled out the cycle. Like this was only a single item before the red.
Correct. It was
Now we've
only
got a
red.
yellow and a blue to go with it. So you can have 9 of these in your deck.
I don't think you want nine of these
No,
in your deck.
but you could have 9. So you've got a good chance to get 3 of them out onto the field. And
Yeah.
then you get a mech, the Nitro Mechanoid. Now it is an item. I, when I saw this card first, I expected it to be an ally, but I guess since Dash is you're putting it on, you're getting inside it, it's treated more like an item.
This is the weird one because it's a weapon, equipment, and item,
Yeah.
right? And there are a lot of implications to that. I got the privilege of struggling through like trying to code this one out, and there's a lot of implications, right? So the funnest thing is this one does have temper. So when the combat chain closes, if it defended and has zero block remaining because it has so many counters on it, or for whatever reason, um, it blows up, and
Hmm.
that means the weapon blows up too because it's all one thing. If anybody has like the item hate, like it says destroy target item,
Right.
the
Right.
whole like
Or
you lose
Dromai,
the
take
block
your
and
item.
or Kyloria can let you take the that's yes, that would happen. So and there's effects that's like destroy target equipment that has a -1 counter on it. I think we just talked about one of those, right? It's the Guardian one. and that would blow up the weapon. So this this card is going to be fascinating. I think it's either going to be completely ridiculously overpowered or it's just going to be a meme.
Right,
And I think it depends a lot on how easy it's going to be to actually get it out
right.
and how much is it going to hamper your game plan to do that.
Okay,
So,
so tell me, the action, banish a card. So the 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 four pieces of equipment, the weapon, the three hyperdrivers, those eight cards are those are under this mechanoid,
yes,
and so then to attack with it, which
you
does
banish one.
you banish one, so you can banish the hyperdrivers first as lower priority. Um,
Well, basically, you banish anything but the galvanic bender. You just do the bender last.
and
So
that's
basically, because that's the one that gives the buff. So
right,
in
because you'd want
practicality,
that still out there, yeah.
what that means, you get 7 attacks at 6 attack and 1 attack at 5 attack, which is I don't know what that is. Look at the calculator.
That's a lot of value.
7 times 6 plus 5 is 47. That's 47 just from the attacks. Yes, it's a lot. And then you also get the, 5 plus 4 plus 3, 9, 12, 14, 15 block. And you can get the full block, you just have to do the last one after you've done your last attack.
Right.
So,
Wow.
overall, that's 62 value.
Okay, when this thing dies, when it blows up, does everything you use to create it go away?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't get those pieces of equipment back. This is pretty
No.
much an all-in.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, basically, you just don't have your weapon anymore. Because, your equipment, you can block with it. So,
Huh.
like,
So that's so
your
weird.
chest piece,
You have to maintain those four pieces of equipment. So with
yeah.
all of the equipment hate in the game now, you can just destroy one of their pieces and
If you
then
destroy one, it destroys this combo. But
right,
again,
they can
that's
never get
that's
it
where
out.
I say this is either going to be like extremely overpowered or it's just going to be too
You're
fragile
never
and
gonna be
too
able
hard
to
to
pull
make
it
it
off,
work.
yeah.
And I don't know where, as of right now, I don't know where this lies, but I mean,
So right,
we'll
you're
see.
basically gonna have to let you won't be able to block with equipment really efficiently. You just have to because you have to save it. You're just like item generation trying to get those three hyperdrivers. And when I saw this, I thought more about Datadog using it in Blitz instead of Dash because you can get to those items a lot faster.
Maybe. I don't know. I think like I don't know. I don't think Data Doll has enough HP. Like in Blitz, I think it's going to be hard to have enough time to get this thing out. Because it is going to take this thing out. It's going to take time to get this thing out. And I
Right, and
don't
you
think,
still have to draw this card too, which
and you also have to draw this card. You have to play it. I mean, I
it
don't know.
costs
I think so.
4. Yeah, yeah. There's still a lot going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and even that cost 4, like that's a whole hand for Data Doll to draw this, and then also pitch 2 cards to get 4. So I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
Well, I
We'll
mean,
see. We'll see how it goes.
if you've got your mech chest, you get 2 resources off the banish, right? So like, there's ways to do some of this.
Yeah, could be. If anything, I think Hanabi Blaster is gonna be the really strong mech card in the set. I'm
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
very
we talked about
concerned.
this. This
Oh,
sucker's
we talked about
OP.
Hanabi.
This
Okay.
sucker's so overpowered.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it looks very strong. Speaking of
But
Data Doll, though, BIOS update,
that's a
which
really cool card.
this no, this card is busted. it's basically free value, right? I mean, it's a
Right.
0 for plus
Zero
3,
that blocks
5.
3, and you get your plus. Man, yeah, yeah,
It's just busted, and it gives you a basically Data Dolls effect for one boost, which is just kind of
yeah.
ridiculous. Pulse Wave Harpoon. Oh my gosh, this card. It's like some people compared it to like some card in Magic. It basically lets you pull a card out of your opponent's hand, which is ridiculous. You look at their hand, you pull a card out with your harpoon or whatever. It's just unbelievable. It's so good. That's better than Pummel, because with Pummel they get to choose.
Right, right,
And it has to hit.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
making
I'm
them
shocked.
making them defend is the same as forcing a discard, except you don't get the damage pushed through, assuming it
I
blocks.
Yeah, I'm very shocked that this card got printed. I mean, it's true that it's a little bit underrated as far as is
Right,
concerned.
they're
You know,
typically a one
normally,
for five. Yeah,
yeah, normally it'd be a 1 for 5, but being able to pull, like, let's say you're against Dory, and you pull out their blue,
well, and that's just
you
one.
just,
If this is like the third card, if you've boosted 2 or 3 times, the value of just like, let me just force you to block with your whole hand.
well, no, no, no. So you can't force them to block with their whole hand. So, uh,
Let's say choose. Oh, okay, okay,
yes.
sorry. You get to look at that number of cards. Okay.
So yeah, I mean to be fair, like you're gonna have to have boosted like at least 3 times, and ideally four to be able to choose from their whole hand.
Right, right,
But
right.
I mean, this itself has boost, and then you know if you do that boost, then you get your extra action point. You can come in with Hanabi Blaster. I mean, this card is just gonna
It's
be
good.
pretty wild. I think
It's
it's
good.
good. It's very good.
Yeah.
Probably too good,
It's
but we'll
like
see.
it's along the same as Assassin, where it's like you're just messing with the opponent's hand
Yeah.
more than just doing
Um.
damage.
So Plasma Mainline, I think this is probably one that's going to be more good in the
We've
future. I
been waiting
think,
for a long time for something that lets you take counters and then move them around. And
yeah,
there you go. This is it.
I think, yeah, and it's a cool effect. It's very cool. I'm glad it exists. I think there's probably not a deck that super wants it yet, just because the items that most want this because they have really impactful conversion of steam counters to resources. I'm kind of thinking of Teklo Pounder, which is really good in the Boost Dash deck, and also the Dash specialization that is like one counter for 2 resources. I don't remember
Hmm.
what it's called, sorry. But those are the two ones that kind of come to mind that want this. But the problem is the same deck doesn't usually want both of them, and it also doesn't want to like spend time playing this thing. Like I'd rather just start with my Teklo Pounder. But
Hmm.
maybe we'll see.
Yeah,
Um,
this will be an interesting card for the Data Doll item decks as well.
yeah,
Like Mech has
I
wanted
think
this thing for a while.
a lot of the other mech cards are kind of interesting because they're a little bit underpowered as far as like the rate for damage. So like Scramble Pulse, Crankshaft, Jumpstart, they're all kind of like one damage under the curve.
But
But
they
then they've
have
got,
interesting effects. Yeah.
yes, they have interesting effects. Um,
And the jumpstart's interesting. It can be a 1 for 5 boost.
that's true. It can be, and it probably wouldn't be that hard for it to be 1 for 5 either. Um, but at that point, like this is a situational 1 for 5. Why not just play the actual 1 for 5 that
Yeah,
doesn't have the condition?
right. Um,
And
urgent
Crankshaft is kind of the same thing.
urgent delivery is probably, I think, is a little busted too.
It's busted. Yeah, I think it's busted. Especially the red. I
It
think,
can't
yeah,
boost,
that
so it's
card.
the end of a chain. But man, just sneaking out items.
Yeah, that's very good. Uh, and then so we talked about Hyperdriver, Blessing of Ingenuity. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think this probably is going to be in the mech deck, but probably nothing else.
Well, again,
Uh,
for Dash, if whoopsie, I banished all my hyperdrivers, it's a safety valve. I can get them back.
yeah. Well, but again, like you really only want them if you're playing the mech deck, right?
Yeah,
So
the spacing. I mean, when you boost, get a resource. If I mean, it's useful, but yeah, how many of these are you going to have in your deck? I don't know. I haven't. There's going to be a lot of tinkering now, pun intended.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Um,
All right,
let's
we're
see.
closing in on an hour. Let's see
Uh-oh.
what's the next biggest thing. Ranger, I mixed emotions for Ranger. A lot of the good cards that have interesting interactions require aim counters, which require the new bow. So you're getting siloed into kind of a specific type of deck with these.
So you do have Point the Tip, which is kind of like an alternative source of the aim counters. But what I've found is that one is really situational, and it's actually harder to play than you might think. And the reason is because you have to have a target face up arrow in your arsenal. And that means unless you're playing New Horizon, you have multiple arsenal slots, you cannot arsenal this card.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of scary. So that was one thing I ran into because I've played a little bit of Ranger too. Um, I mean, I think the things that have aim counters are actually pretty good. Like Hemorrhage Bore, destroy a card in their arsenal, being able to get a CNC type effect on an arrow is pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Um, Long shot is, I mean, it's a little bit above rate. It would be a 0 for 5, which is fine. I think drill shot, getting piercing 1, that's pretty good. And then the -1 counter. Um, I think Heat Seeker is probably the best Ranger card of this set. It's basically like a Ranger. It's kind of like a Ranger arrow snatch, which is it's good,
yeah.
right? Or a promise of plenty, one might say. It's similar to
Exactly.
promise of
But you
plenty.
don't have to load their arsenal. You just do yours.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think Ranger got some fun tools.
Good, good. Man, they dropped a lot for every class. And I know um, the coolest legendary is definitely the light illusionist ally, in my opinion. We saw the cold foil marvel of this, and wow, it was it looked really good. It is unfortunate there's no CC hero to play it right now.
Are you talking about, oh, Invoke Soraya? Is that the
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
I've got mixed feelings about this one too. I think it's a fascinating new alternative to the Spectra mechanic, which is like if you attack this, you lose your go agains, which is really punishing, especially as like a guardian. It's really painful. Even Ranger is painful too.
Hmm.
Um, this one, I almost wonder if it goes too far in the other direction, though. Wait, I can't.
Oh, they don't have the actual ally
Yeah, I
side
think
on the
the
library.
ally, because it has health. It's an ally, so you can attack it. It has health. It also has ward, which is like it's really bad against like a wizard. So let's say you attack with Soraya, and then the wizard comes back with some spell and Waning Moon, and you've tapped out because you just cast Soraya. Now you can't block their damage. You take one damage, and oh no, Soraya blows up because you have ward, and I'm attacking with it, so I lose my action point, and um,
Yeah,
it's bad.
Ward is definitely. It's like
I
you get
think
all that out there, and then all they have to do is just throw a decent attack, and your stuff blows up.
I'm not seeing the alternate
There
side,
it is.
but
I pulled it up on the FabDB card gallery, or the main website's card gallery is updated with this
oh, got you. Okay.
image. So once per turn attack, two resources attack. When Soraya attacks, you may banish a light card from your soul. If you do, Soraya deals one arcane to any target. So interesting ally interaction there. You can get an extra damage out if you have cards to banish from soul. But when Soraya deals damage, you gain that much health. That's an interesting interaction too. But with that
It's
ward
interesting.
4,
Yeah.
she's basically just like a giant spectral shield.
Yeah.
And you know the thing about ward that sucks is if they're just getting one damage through, the ward 4 still triggers, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's
So it's
very
unfortunate.
inefficient. Yeah. But wow, it is a beautiful card. Jeez.
All
Cool.
right. Do we need to save some to talk about next time?
Yeah, hopefully we get the real Fabled to talk about. Um, Emperor got a few Imperial things. They reprinted the spell phrase set and added a tiara. That was interesting. Yeah. Overall, the set looks pretty strong. Um, there, I switched to just our faces. The set looks pretty strong. Adding a new class all entirely that people are actually interested in definitely is going to move a lot more boxes than before. I think a lot of people got burned by Everfest being mediocre for most classes, and if there was a card that took off that you needed, just buy the single. Don't go hunting for it in the packs, right? But people are saying this actually has a slot specific for assassin in these packs. So buy your box or two, and you may end up with all the cards you need to play assassin, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that having the new class is really cool. I hope they do something similar in future supplemental sets, even if it's not a totally new class, even just having like a new hero would be really cool.
Yeah, they did that with Starvo with Everfest, but he didn't need any new cards really, because since he could play all the other stuff. So, well, I expected similar to Starvo in this set, but instead we got a whole new class with all new cards, so that was cool. And a new Light Illusionist, a new Shadow Runeblade. James White said those will be coming in 2023. So they're working on it, be able to do this ally pretty soon. So, all right. What is today in the World Championship? It's day 2. I saw only one person went undefeated yesterday, 8-0, playing Fi.
Surprise. No.
I think like what was it? A quarter of the field was Fi, a third of the field. It was a lot in the CC.
Yeah. I think it was yeah. I think it was only a quarter, which is actually not that bad.
Yeah, the spread for CC was actually pretty diverse, surprisingly. I don't know if day 2 will be as diverse, but we'll see who ends up in top 8. Definitely money's on some Fis, on some old M's. Yeah. Who are you rooting for today? Oh, today is also today's Blitz, right?
Aren't they just kind of mixing? It's not Blitz all day, is it? I thought they kind of mixed it.
Part of it is Blitz, which is exciting. because I cannot wait for someone to just show up with Data Doll, Leviah, other heroes that still have potential to knock you out on turn two.
I think Man Sand was playing Leviah the whole day, or like the whole, or at least for Blitz and CC.
Of course he is. He should. It just wouldn't be a. It just wouldn't be natural for him not to right now. All right, you got a whole week of extra coding in front of you. I gotta catch up on TCG player orders, things that came through.
All right, sounds good.
You at
Thanks for
home?
talking.
Yeah. Catch us on this, Twitter and wherever else we are. Fab Twitter is probably the best place to interact. You can ping all the main players. There's a lot of hilarious stuff that goes around, and yeah, should be another exciting week. Can't wait to see who wins this world championship. What is it? Like $100,000 up for grabs?
Uh, yeah, something like that. It's kind of crazy.
That might pay for travel for somebody, so that'll be good. All right, you all have a great week. Thanks for hanging out.